Alright, so in this video we're going to go over the process on how to make one of the reaeration chambers. And to start, we will just have the materials that we will be using laid out. So we have one bottom piece, our two sides, our two end pieces, four triangular corner braces, four little square pieces that are going to serve as little stoppers for some of the internal parts, as well as these rectangular pieces which will also serve as additional stoppers. And then we have these pieces that will go on the side with a 45-degree cut here that will serve to line up some of the interior shelves. Some acrylic cement in a little squirt bottle, two corner clamps, four large clamps, one large pipe clamp, and two of these little adjustable screws and hex nut kind of deal that's going to serve to help clamp some of the interior parts as those are being glued. The first step of this process, we're going to be attaching one of our end pieces to the bottom of the chamber. And for this we'll need the bottom and the end, of course, two corner clamps and two large clamps, as well as our bottle of acrylic cement. And so we're going to take the angle, or the corner clamp, and attach that to these two pieces like so. Apply a slight bit of pressure so that it stays, and repeat with the other corner clamp. And now we'll just move this end piece along so it's flush with the bottom of the chamber. And once that's set, you go ahead and tighten the clamps down. And apply the glue. And so you just tilt the bottle up and just apply it right to the seam. And this is going to be hard to see on the camera, but what we're looking for is you'll see the glue will slip right into the seam. Alright, and so now that we have the glue in the seam, we'll go ahead and clamp this end piece down to apply a little bit of pressure on that bond. And take care that the end of the clamps don't overlap the end of this end piece, as if they do, they will push the end piece to one side or the other, and you'll get a weird angle as it dries instead of a nice 90-degree. Alright, and so now that that's clamped, we're going to set it aside and wait about 10 minutes for that glue to dry. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes, and so the bond between the end piece and the bottom is about set. And so now we're ready to add one of the side pieces. And to do this, we want the end of the side piece with the two holes, or the two sets of holes drilled close together, to be opposite of the hole in the bottom piece. And also, I forgot to mention earlier, but we want all of these holes in the acrylic to be facing out. These are going to be where we'll attach the clamps. later on. And so we want those to be facing the outside of the box. Alright, so we're just going to line that up here. Add a corner clamp to the top corner here, and then we're going to go ahead and add another corner clamp to the end and try to line it up so the seam is flush. And we'll just clamp that down. Now we'll set the box on its side. Check that this seam is flush as well. And now we can start to add our large clamps. Just clamping along this edge and flushing everything up as we go. Alright, and that will square up this bottom joint. But we also need to square up the joint here at the end. And this is where our big pipe clamp is going to come in handy. So we'll take off the end and just slide that through here. Put the end back on. And clamp it tight. And I like to apply this clamp at an angle so that we get a better seam, or a better seam here down at the bottom. Alright, and just go ahead and check that everything is flush once more real quick. And we're ready to add the glue. I'll start here with this end seam. And to do this, I usually like to loosen up this pipe clamp just a tad so it provides more of a space for this glue to seep in. So once that's been added, cinch the clamp back up. And we're ready to start on this bottom seam. And this one can be a little tricky sometimes, but by removing clamps as you go, you can kind of loosen up that seam and again allow for the glue to get in a little bit better. And so just apply the glue, keeping an eye on it to make sure it's fully being applied to that seam throughout. We'll add this clamp. and remove the next. And you may notice that in some areas the glue might not go through all the way to the other side. That's okay. Once this has set in about 10 to 15 minutes, we can go through, remove the clamps, and then add the glue back through the other side. That way we have a more complete seam. Ready? Okay, so we're on to the fourth step. The third step, which we skipped ahead of, was just putting on the other side. And so to do that, just follow the same manner as what we did with the first side. And the fourth step is to add this end. And so to do this, this is a three-phase step, and we'll just start by bonding one of the side seams first. And so add the corner clamp. Make sure this piece is flush on the top. Alright. Since we have that flush, we can go ahead and add one of our large clamps right here to make sure that it is flush with the bottom. So flush it up down at the bottom. Check the top one more time. Okay, so that's good. Go ahead and cinch down that clamp. And now we want to add this large pipe clamp to make sure that the seam right here on the side is nice and tight when the adhesive is setting. Alright, so we'll go ahead, check that seam one more time, loosen up this clamp a little bit, and add the glue. Alright, now I'll cinch down the clamp once more, and in about 10 or 15 minutes we'll be ready. Alright, so now that this seam has dried, we can go ahead and glue the bottom, and since this meets up nice and flush with the side, we can go ahead and glue that as well. Sometimes the sides are a little warped, so it doesn't meet up nice, and you might need to take 2 steps or take a couple extra steps gluing, but that's not the case here. So we can just go ahead, get the clamps on. We'll start with the corner clamp and get this corner nice and flush. And we want to cinch up this bottom joint, get that nice and flush down at the bottom and along the bottom corner. And then need to loosen up that corner clamp first to get it real nice. go ahead and do that. And we'll cinch the corner up again. And we'll go ahead and just apply a line of glue right to the bottom here. I'm just going to loosen up this clamp so we can get the glue in all the way. And then cinch it back up. Alright. And while we have that clamped, we'll go ahead and turn the box on its side. Just check this seam once more, make sure it's nice and flush. And we will actually apply glue now. And then add the large pipe clamp and cinch everything together. Alright, and we'll let that set, and then the next step will be to add these corner braces.